Welcome to our YouTube channel. This morning we have with us Mr. Bob Dill, and Bob is an Army veteran of 26.5 years service. He's a member of our American Legion Post 214 here in Taylor, South Carolina. And today Bob is the publisher of the Times-Examiner located in Taylor, South Carolina, and it's called the Independent Conservative Voice of the Palmetto State, a very conservative newspaper that gets the conservative voice out. Bob, tell us, what does it mean to you to be a veteran?
Well, never thought about being a veteran, but anybody that has served one day or more in the uniform of the Armed Forces of the United States is a veteran and deserves the recognition that all of us have earned. To me, the great part of being a veteran is that there's a continued camaraderie among the former service members that you don't have in any other type organization, because I was from the Korea, Vietnam era, and people that never served in Vietnam can't understand, and you can't communicate what it was like over there. So we generally, Vietnam veterans don't talk to anybody but Vietnam veterans about Vietnam, because they don't understand, and there's nothing wrong with them not understanding. It was just a strange situation, and a unique situation. And so the fellowship and the ability to organize and educate the American public on what the military has contributed to the history of the United States, and the earning and the preservation of our culture is the greatest thing I see about being a veteran.
Thank you.
There's no other organization that has the background and ability and the motivation to do what veterans do.
Well, we have your service uniform that you donated to the post here, and I'd just like to point out a few things. Bob retired as a full colonel. He was on the general staff at the Pentagon. That's the general staff pin, and he pointed out to us that this particular general staff pin on the jacket pocket here was given to people who actually completed a year's service, Bob?
At least a year in the
service.
general staff.
And over here are his ribbons signifying his service in Vietnam, and he was on flight status, so he has his wings. And over here is a unit citation from being in Vietnam. And the shoulder patch shows that he was in Vietnam. I believe that's MACV, if I'm not mistaken. Bob, if you would, go ahead and tell us about some of the highlights of your 26.5 years of service, and if you could also tell us a little bit about your newspaper. I know when you got out of service you were sort of looking for something to do, and you came up with the newspaper, which has kept you quite busy. But anyway, tell us about the highlights of your service and about the newspaper.
Well, I had no intentions of spending my best years in the military. So I grew up on a farm. I worked at a sawmill, I plowed a mule, cotton field. I had a teacher who was an aunt who was a teacher, who talked me into going to college. I was the only member of my immediate family to go to college. My dad had gone to, he graduated from North Greenville Baptist Academy, which was a high school through the 10th grade boarding school. And he went to the University of South Carolina and was there for one semester, and his mother died, and he and his sister had to drop out of school and come home. So I ended up going to Clemson, and that was a military, all-male military school at the time. And the Korean War was going on, so there was some motivation for me to do better than I might have academically. So I joined the reserves. So I went from a private to a corporal in the infantry in the reserves for a couple of years, and then on graduation I was commissioned as second lieutenant. And at the time in the reserves quartermaster corps, but I went on active duty 16 days after graduation, and my service was spread over a real variety of assignments, from nuclear weapons to grocery stores. So
Quite a variety.
They like to make sure that they have people that can serve in different positions. And it happens that when I retired, they didn't have any active duty military to take over the job that I had, and they civilianized it and paid a guy that had worked for me about 3 times what I was making in uniform to replace me. And I had an opportunity to apply for the same job, but I was burned out. I started off not too good at Fort Jackson. I had a boss that this captain that was left over from World War II, and he called me in one day and says, "Bob, you're not going to make it in the Army." He says, "You don't go to happy hour. You on weekends you leave and take your family and go back to Greenville, and you don't stay here and participate in the social life on the post." Well, I wasn't interested in the social life on the post at Fort Jackson. I told him, I said, I'm in for 2 years. I'm going to serve my 2 years. I'll do what I'm ordered to do, the best of my ability, but I'm not staying a minute longer than that. So he says, "Well, I've always said that a man can't soldier in his own backyard, and you're an example of that." And he says, "But your biggest problem, Bob, is you don't drink, and I don't trust a man that don't drink." And I laughed right in his face. And first thing I knew was 6 months to go in my 2 years, he had put me on orders for Germany. And went to Germany. Wife and kid came later. Got over there and working for some good people. And West Point boss. And he talked me and 2 other guys into applying for integration into the regular Army, which gave you more security. So we at a hail and farewell party talked about, we're gonna do this or not. Said, well, let's make the old man happy, and we'll fill out the forms, and chances are they won't accept us because we're nothing exceptional. And but he apparently wrote us a good recommendation, and all three of us were accepted. And I was immediately transferred from quartermaster corps to armor, and went to a tank outfit in Hanau, and reported to duty at the Belsenhona NATO range firing tanks. So a day later, I'm in a 120 millimeter gun tank on the firing range, and somebody bumped me that first day I was in there, and I kind of shoved him back, looked up, and there's 4 stars on his hat. And it was General Bruce Clark, who was the senior commander in Germany at the time. So I learned to look who I'm shoving when you get in a tight spot. But I spent the rest of my tour in Germany in that tank outfit. Very enjoyable, but it's for stuff for a young man. So I decided not to stay there any longer than I had to, although it was very enjoyable. A lot of esprit in those outfits. I went from there to the 7th Cavalry, which is Custer's old outfit, at Fort Benning, Georgia. And we did the research and training, then this is in the late 50s, to use helicopters as platforms for weapons. The first time it'd been done. And we did most of the training at, we were located at Fort Benning, but did most of the helicopter training at Fort Stewart. And went from there to school for a year at Fort Lee, and then to Korea for a year, which was a miserable place. If you're living in the field, and that's basically what we did. It's coldest cold I've ever seen. And fortunately there wasn't a war going on. It was all stalemated like it is now. But after Korea, I was going to get out of the Army. I had about 11 years service. And I thought, this is really not for me. And I was upset because I got extended over there. The Berlin crisis came along, and President Kennedy extended everybody's tours in Korea. And I thought, I don't understand the connection. That's not right. I was thinking about what's right and wrong and fair and so on. I found out that that's not considered. That's not a consideration. And so I had my papers all ready to get out. And I got this letter in the mail, and it looked like junk mail, and I almost threw it out. It was from Oklahoma State University, and I remember telling a friend, I said, I don't know anybody at Oklahoma State. I don't know what I'm doing getting junk mail from these people. And I said, well, I'll open it up and see what's in there. And there was a letter saying, you've been accepted for graduate school for 2 years at Oklahoma State. And I thought, man, I hate school. I don't want to go to school. And nor do I want to stay in the Army. And I got to thinking, I'd be a fool to turn this down, because there are people that really sacrifice to get a master's degree. And here I am, they're gonna pay me, Uncle Sam is gonna pay me my salary. I'm gonna go to school for 2 years and basically be on my own. And so I accepted and went, and it almost killed me. I majored in animal husbandry at Clemson, and was going to be a veterinarian, and couldn't do that because my folks ran out of money before I got out of Clemson. But they were sending me to get a degree in food science, and I had to take a bunch of pre-med chemistry. And first summer I was there, I took 3 chemistry courses: analytical, quantitative analysis, and one other chemistry course. And all I had to do was pass it, and it nearly killed me, because I was everybody in the class was pre-med, who already knew all the chemistry there was to know before they got there. And here I am, I've been out of school for several years and hate school. So I had to get in the studying mode real quick. So I was there for 2 years, then I went to Command General Staff College, and I got everybody's getting orders after school at the CNGS, and I never did get any orders. And I get worried, I call Washington and I ask assignment people, well, you'll get something. And so I get orders finally, the last minute, saying you're going to Germany. So we'd been there before for 3 years when I was second lieutenant, and we knew that you need winter clothes and all this stuff over there, and so the world starts buying clothes. We pack up this Konex container and ship our stuff out to Heidelberg. And we're getting close to graduation, about a week from graduation, and I get a little note in my box at the school saying, call Washington, call the assignment people. And I get on the phone and I said, what are you people doing to me now? Well, your orders have been changed, and you're going to Hawaii. And I thought, oh shoot, because we knew then that as soon as Johnson was elected president in the real election, he was going to do big stuff in Vietnam. The military all knew it. The American people didn't know it. They thought gold